Mic'd up.
On the mic'd up platform, AJ Rovner, Steve Shanamanico. Most likely only one more Rangers show after this until we move over to baseball. Rangers are as close to being eliminated as you can be. 3 games to go. The Rangers need 7 more things to happen. One of them happened last night. The Rangers would have to ultimately win out, and Montreal will have to have 4 non-overtime / shootout losses. So simply put, the Canadians would have to have 0 points. The Rangers would have to have all 6. They would have the same amount of points at 88. The Rangers would hold the tiebreaker due to regulation overtime wins. But ultimately, this is not a team that deserves playoff recognition, even if they somehow, with a miracle, limp their way in. But Steve, will you give your thoughts? Then we'll do the usual, go into these games, and then we will go over these last 3 Ranger games and take it
So,
from there.
certainly, as you put it, it would take a miracle, not even a small miracle, absolute humongous miracle for the Rangers to make the play. We've been vacillating back and forth the entire season. They've been in the wild card spot. They've been a point out. They've been 3 out. Have to do X, Y, and Z, and they haven't been able to come through. And that's just been the case right down to the last 3 games of the year. So to think they're going to make it, they're not mathematically eliminated, and anyone who wants to dream alive, you can go right ahead and do that. But as far as I'm concerned, the nail is in the coffin. Just a matter of putting the dirt on top.
Crazy to think about how less than a year ago the Rangers were playing for a clinch of the President's Trophy and came 2 wins away from advancing to the Stanley Cup Final. But right, they lost 4-2 to Florida, I believe. 4-2.
Up 2 games to 1. Game 4 goes into overtime.
Yep.
And, we talked about that at nauseum. Blake Wheeler on the ice, Mika's giveaway at the blue line, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, 6 games away, 1 goal away from going up 3 games to 1. And didn't work out. And this year,
One of the most drastic downfalls, certainly of my lifetime for the Rangers, but honestly of any hockey team. It's very difficult, especially when you have so many of the same players, no key guys left. It's really the same core and just such a different result and extremely disappointing, to say the least.
right. I mean, you could say when they were up back in '94, which is half a lifetime ago exactly for me. Uh, Keenan didn't come back. There was, the coach changes. There was a strike the next. There's a lot of factors, but this team came out the same way they pretty much ended last year. Started off great, and the bottom just fell out in a hurry.
I mean, there's so many losses you could think of, especially, I guess you could just start with saying it's very difficult when you're 18, 19, and 3 at home. It's an extremely poor home record. They're actually significantly better on the road. I mean, they only have a -1 goal differential, which is kind of crazy to think about. I mean, there's so many losses you can go through. They lost to the Blackhawks at home. Just think about the Flyers just 2 nights
You
ago.
you wouldn't you wouldn't want that point back. You were up against Anaheim,
Oh yeah,
up with 5 minutes to go. I mean, we could go through a litany of them,
the Sharks.
giving points away. Yep.
Well, they killed the Sharks the next day, but
But
uh,
there's been too many of them.
way too many of them. But 3 games to go. The Rangers are 37, 35, and 7, 81 points. Currently good for, I believe, 4th in the wild card hunt. As I said, Rangers would need a miracle. They would need Montreal to lose out, the Rangers to win out for them to have any chance. Give it up to the Canadians, though. Every other team has tried to somehow get in. Montreal has really taken that edge and has won 6 in a row. So,
Beating very good teams while getting out at the right time.
100%. And that is why they currently are where they are. And the Rangers are 4-5-1. The Blue Jackets are 5-5-0. The Red Wings were recently in it. They're 4-5-1. The Islanders are 2-5-3. So it's really been the Canadians that have gone off to an extremely hot start. And this is the first season since this format where I believe maybe happened once or twice other, but that you might get in under 90 points. The Rangers would be very, very, very eliminated if they were currently in the Western Conference. But three more notes I want to bring up before we get in. You would have to think Laviolette is gone. The other thought, I have no idea how you could possibly bench Gabe Perreault. You burn a year of his entry level contract to then scratch him, I believe, 3 games into his NHL career. I think that's all he played was three. Um, I think so, right? Yep, 3 games into his career, already burning a year. He's been scratched. And I think that for Fan Appreciation Day, I know there won't be anything from the team since it's not official, but I certainly believe that Chris Kreider should get some chant from the fans, knowing that his tenure is most definitely over as a Ranger, by far the longest tenured. I believe a goal away from the power play goals record. I mean, there's so many accolades, and there's certainly a chance his number is next to Henrik. But those three thoughts for you, Steve: Laviolette, Berard being put into the lineup for Perreault, and Kreider.
Well, I'll get to that in a second, but you mentioned the Rangers' home record. Like two teams with an under 500 home record in the league, San Jose and Chicago. That puts into perspective what the Rangers have done on home ice. Yeah, Laviolette, I mean, it's, seems like a foregone conclusion. He's not going to be back. Just hasn't been able to get a grip on the team. You know, could be questioned his player personnel use. Just benching Gabe Perreault and saying, until they're eliminated, you put the team on the ice to give them the best chance to win. So 2 games ago, putting him in the lineup was giving you the best chance to win. Just his answer haven't made any sense. I saw something on social media about he after a loss recently, he didn't go into the locker room. I don't go into the locker room. I don't know if it's true or not. You can't believe everything you hear or see. That was an asinine comment also. So yeah, I don't think Laviolette's going to. It's amazing he lasted the season, but I think it's going to be one of the first things that the Rangers do come probably the first week after the season ends next week.
And Kreider was the other point I made.
Listen, Kreides isn't the player he once was, but the guy has been playing fourth line for over a month now. He doesn't get first unit power play time anymore. I was watching one of the recent power plays. The first unit was out there for minute 43. Kreider goes out there with 17 seconds to go on the power play. Goalie covers the puck. Power plays over. He's off the ice. He's still, what's he got, 20 goals, Kreider?
21.
21 goals. Listen, his production's way down, but, he's been playing with every fourth line for 6 weeks. It's unfortunate. The Rangers just always seem to, they don't treat their veterans, their, long time players with too much respect. Not in every case, but in many cases, and that's been the case this year with Kreider. Guy's been the ultimate Ranger, ultimate playoff performer, probably, arguably the greatest Ranger playoff performer there was, despite never winning the cup. I know, in the '94 they had a lot of great heroes, Leach, Messier, Richter, bunch. But yeah, just, I'm not going to use the word disrespect, but they certainly haven't given him the opportunity here in what could be his final season as a Ranger.
I mean, certainly some numbers just to think about: 325 goals, 880 games as a Ranger, plus 118, 116 power play goals, 13 of them shorthanded, 50 game winning goals. As Joe Micheletti said, very difficult to put a guy that has 116 power play goals, 18 last season, 48 in his last 4 years, and not have him on the first unit. It's always been baffling to Micheletti on air, and I think at least the majority of the fans, even though he's getting fourth line minutes, I don't understand how he's not on the first unit, but it's not our call.
Well, listen, to that point, Mika, and listen, Mika is who he is. He's had another horrible, disappointing year, one of the many Rangers. He's got 18 goals, and he's played 79 games. Kreider's played 65 games, 14 less goals. He's got 3 more goals than Mika. Mika's getting top power play time out there at least the first minute, if not more, playing first line. Kreider's on the fourth line, and Kreider's got 3 more goals than Mika. Mika just, he's got by the entire year. And I've said all along, we need him to perform. He top minutes, quality minutes, important minutes. And there's Kreider playing 14 less games, terrible ice time, terrible quality ice time, and he's got 3 more goals than Zibanejad.
I think that's very well said. I don't really have anything to add to that point. But moving on, we were on last Tuesday. So we have this stretch right after they came home from San Jose. The Rangers played home for Minnesota, an inspiring 5 home overtime win. Then they went to Jersey, lost 4-0. They actually lost their next 3 games after that inspiring home overtime win against Minnesota. They winded up losing those next 3 games 17-6. And the 2 losses before Philadelphia was 9-1. So, and then obviously being the Islanders last night, as we spoke about. So, Steve, as always, take us through these 5: the Minnesota, the 3-game losing streak, New York, and then we'll preview these final 3.
Yeah, Minnesota game, they showed a little grit, some comeback capability, which they haven't shown all year. Defense was porous. Been, as you mentioned, the 3 games that followed, giving up 17 goals and only scoring 6. They got an important 2 points. Obviously, any points are important this time of year. And again, they couldn't build on the momentum of a nice win at home, a nice overtime win. They come home and they lose to Tampa 5-1. They didn't play a bad game. They gave up 3 goals at 43, more defensive lapses. I think they held Tampa to 18 shots or some low shot total, but just could never get out of the way. Vasilevsky played really well, made 38 saves. Um, play Philly at home, backup goalie. Philly out of the playoffs. Defense has been just as bad as ours over there. Rangers take a 5-4 lead or 4-3 lead late, early third. Floodgates open. Flyers all of a sudden look like the 76 Canadians. Filling the net. Quick wasn't sharp. His rebounds were bad. Defensive coverage was horrendous as usual. And another home disappointing loss. Should have been 2 more points at home. Devil game, same thing. Played a decent first period. Midway through the second, give up a power play goal. Rangers go for a power play. One of these godforsaken odd man rush while you're on the power play, 2-1 the other way. Jesper Bratt finishes. Instead of getting a power play goal and tying it at 1, it's 2-0. And Rangers could never find the net in that game. We've seen that so many times. Again, Devils had 15 shots. They're playing without Jack Hughes, their best player by far. Rangers didn't play a terrible game, but couldn't get the offense going. Like you said, a stretch of 3 games, no points, outscored 17-6. And that brought us to last night's game, which might be the highlight of my year with your pop at UBS in Elmont. Unbelievable 9-2 game. Uh, backup goalie for the Islanders. Poor guy couldn't stop a beach ball last night. Rangers got off to a 4-0 lead early. The Islanders obviously weren't going to just sit back. They peppered Ego with like 40-something shots. Defense coverage wasn't good for the Rangers. Ego had to make a lot of top-notch saves just to keep the blowout intact. But it was nice to see Barad score 2. Rempe was all over the place, causing havoc, making some nice plays. Panarin scored from behind the net for the 9th goal. The guy loves scoring. Gotta love a guy who loves scoring like that. Get a cheapie like that. But anytime the Rangers get a 9-2 win over the Islanders, even in their building, was beautiful.
And then the other 2 things, I never remember a hockey team in my life, and this is completely on Laviolette to get too many men on the ice penalties. I mean, it is just insane. And the other thing is, I remember watching a Fox interview, and he said they're so aggressive on the power play that there's no team that gives up more shorthanded opportunities than the Rangers. Just 2-on-1s. It feels so repetitive. But
Yeah, the too many ice penalties got to go on. Most of the time, I feel it's got to go on the coach. I mean, once in a while, it's a miscommunication for a player, but yeah, it's been, I don't know how, it's got to be at least 12 to 15 of them this year. It's unbelievable.
and that
Hey,
is
speaking of Fox, just happened to check the Rangers stat sheet here.
does have 50 assists.
Missed 8 games, second on the team in scoring, and he missed 8 games. He's got more than Mika, more than Trocheck, obviously more than Lafreniere. 60 points, 71 games. His defense has been very lacking. I'll get
Plus
with him,
7.
but +7 on a crappy team that's not going to make the playoffs. You know, maybe next year he comes back and has a more Fox-like season. But his numbers aren't bad.
I think there's no doubt about that the Rangers' best defenseman all year, consistent, has been Braden Schneider. He's having a career year. Best season he's had points wise, most goals he's ever scored, most assists he's ever scored, his highest plus minus.
+12 on a crap team, doesn't get power play time, changes his partners like daily, nightly. He's got a different partner with him. Just goes out there, does a great job. Should get more ice time, if you ask me. Played, I don't know, he's averaging 17 and a half minutes a game. Fox plays 23 minutes. Keandre, Jesus Christmas, 21 and a half minutes the guy plays. I'd like to see Schneider get more ice time.
And another thing about Schneider, and which I love, is that in his NHL career, since becoming a full time player, not getting sent down, missed one game.
Good.
Played. That is very impressive, especially in today's age where so many guys do not play the whole 82. I believe he might be the only one. Yeah, there's only 5 guys right now. Sabanjad, Trocheck, Loft, Cooley, Schneider. Those would be the only 5 that are on pace to play in all 82. So, moving on here to a question or two. We obviously already talked about the Rangers having any chance of making the postseason. We agree that Laviolette will get fired. There is a Knicks question. Um, so I'll take that and then we'll move on to the Rangers.
With the Knicks stumbling down the stretch, what do you think their chances are in winning a first round matchup at least?
Listen, I think that it's been a very as disappointing as it's been for the Rangers. It's been a very fun Knicks season. It's the best team they've probably had on paper in my life. Detroit scares me. They beat the Knicks all 4 times this year. But listen, you got to make a push, or I think Thibodeau can be gone. They got the pieces. Guy Brunson's 100%, but there's certainly a chance. So let's now talk about these final 3 Ranger games of the year. This is probably the last time we'll do this segment, bearing an absolute miracle, or probably would be the last Ranger show before we do baseball for the next, 5-6 months. But let's go take a look at the final 3. So as we said, I'll continue to bring it up since there is a chance. Rangers would have to win all 3 of these games. They currently do not control their own destiny. I believe the Canadians play tonight, so the Rangers could be eliminated as soon as this evening. Canadians play the Senators. If you want to root, the Canadians would just have to get this game into overtime, and they will have a beer party in the locker room following tonight's contest. Well, I don't know if they do that for the regular season, but maybe it's not like baseball. But anyways, Rangers will start off against the Carolina Hurricanes. A lot of games against them, obviously, this year. It will be a Saturday matinee on ABC. So no Sam and Joe, obviously. I believe the last 2 are not nationally televised, to my knowledge. Yes, the last 2 aren't. So Sam and Joe, one more road game together, one more home game together. Sam really acted like a fan down the stretch. Really wanted them to make the playoffs because MSG gets the first round. But Carolina, once again, good year, 46-27-5. They're always at the top of the Metropolitan Division. They've actually been extremely cold, lost 4 in a row, including games to the Bruins, Sabres, and Red Wings, all teams on the outside looking in, 2 of which are eliminated. They're led in offense by Sebastian Aho. He could easily have a 30-goal season. Seth Jarvis is their only 30-goal scorer. A lot of split production all around. Their goaltender is Kochetkov, 26-15-3, 258, 898. Freddie Anderson, 20 games, 13-6-1, 220 goals against average. Rangers have to win. Well, this game could be meaningless, Steve, but if it isn't, it will be the normal squad. What would they have to do to take down Carolina, who I believe is still playing for something, to my knowledge? But
Yeah, you mentioned the goalie situation. The numbers are great. I don't think either one is top goalies in the league. I think they play a good brand of hockey, which maybe gives the goalies a little better chance of stopping the puck. That being said, you mentioned consistent year in, year out. Seth Jarvis having a career year, career high with 31 goals, stepping up since the trade of Nashis. I mean, they're always a tough team to play against. Rangers have developed a kind of rivalry against, especially with them in the playoffs so often. So, always a great game for Carolina.
and then, of course, the next game will wrap up the road career of the iconic Sam Rosen, the Rangers' longtime 40-year announcer. They will play the Panthers. Panthers 46-29-4. I did do the math. The Hurricanes will most likely play their A guys because they want to get, if they advance, the Lightning also have 97 points. So even though they're in different divisions, home ice could be a factor. But the Lightning, same situation. You don't want to drop to that 3 line. They want to stay at that 2 line because you want to be able to have home ice advantage. So Rangers will play the Lightning in their second to last game of the year. Well, I believe, as you said, back-to-back nights they have. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Is it Florida they're playing?
Florida and then Tampa.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's Florida, then Tampa. But nevertheless, 2 teams that certainly want to get that 2 lines. You have home ice in the first round. Florida has a game more and 1 less point. So right now it's certainly favoring Tampa. But speaking about Florida, Rangers, of course, that's what ended their season. I guess the downfall of this team. Florida, 46-29-4. They've won each of their last 2, lost 5 in a row before that. Sam Reinhart's leading the way. That's most likely going to be their only 30-goal scorer. Assist-wise, it's Alexander Barkov, probably the best defensive forward I've ever been alive for. Reinhart's going to be their only 80-point scorer. Matthew Tkachuk, who's been banged up.
You never saw Jan Eriksson play.
I didn't because that's usually my point. Never saw him play. But goaltending-wise, Cup winner last year was unbelievable in the playoffs, and he's having a great year this year. Sergei Bobrovsky, 33 wins, 239 goals against average, 908 save percentage. I certainly will most likely be a Vezina runner-up, but once again, could certainly be a meaningless game at this point. But if it isn't, once again, Rangers A guys will be out there. Florida, as experienced as a team as there is, winners all around. What would they have to do to take down Florida?
Yeah, they were cold there for a while. Won the last 2. Bobrovsky gave up 1 goal in each of the last 2. He's probably getting himself ready for another playoff run. Defending Stanley Cup champions. Yeah, without Tkachuk, but they're still formidable. Great lineup. Tough to play against. I mean, if it comes down to wishing on a prayer here that the game's going to be a meaningful game for the Rangers, but just obviously going to have your A game. This team, whether I don't know what they're going to do for their goalie set was, but playing Bobrovsky, one of the best goalies in the league, been doing it consistently for 10 years at least now. So shocking when you mentioned they only have 1 30-goal scorer, but they spread the wealth around. Barkov, Bennett, Verhage. So yeah, great team. Always tough to beat the defending champs, but from your lips to God's ears, the game means something for the Rangers.
And then, I mean, just talking about Montreal for a second, I don't think their Final Four's, a layup. I mean, anything could happen in this league. I know I'm being so optimistic, but they go on the road to Ottawa, who's, great story, going to make the postseason. That they're at Toronto. That game's always a big rivalry in Canada. I wouldn't say that's a layup. Chicago and Montreal met once this year. Chicago won 4-2, and then home for Carolina. I think the only difference in that game is how meaningful will it be for Carolina. But the odds of them losing 4 in a row are so slim. They've only done that. They've lost 5 in a row only twice all year. They did lose 7 in a row earlier in the year, 6 in a row. I mean, you never know, but the way they're playing, it seems almost impossible. But the Rangers will end their season at home. Obviously, should be an emotional day for some fans, especially those that love listening on the radio, love listening on TV. It'll be the last 60 minutes you will ever get to listen to Sam Rosen and Joe Micheletti. I know I brought that up for all 3 games, but I think it's an important note to make today. Most certainly will most likely be Chris Kreider's last home game as a Ranger. Blue shirts off your backs, fan appreciation day. Very cool that my teammate for over 15 years, Gene, will be on the ice. Get to do blue shirts off your
Yeah.
back. So certainly a beautiful touch there by the organization. What that is fans line up on one blue line, players line up at center ice. They each hold up a paper of which player. Fans have a Sharpie, gets randomized right before you go out there. You do not know. Player brings over the jersey, signs it, takes a photo. Very cool tradition. Not every team does it. Then the players throw out T-shirts to the fans, thank them. One final stick salute. I think all the fans thought that the final PA announcement would be, "We'll see you in the postseason." Doesn't seem to be the case this year. But the games have to be played. There will be one more at Madison Square Garden. They'll play the Tampa Bay Lightning. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They could still win the Atlantic Division, which of course is huge. Got to always play for that. They have a coach that I would say is a lifetime contract in Tampa. John Cooper ain't going anywhere. Big bounce back year for Andrei Vasilevsky. As we said, no Hellebuck. He's a slam dunk winner. I mean, he plays, Lundqvist childhood games for me. Like how many games he plays. Going to play probably 65 games. That's a lion's share, right? Got 37 wins. Most likely win 40. A 217 goals against average, 922 save percentage. I mean, guys, one of the best first ballot Hall of Famer. Kucherov, I mean, this guy's 116 points, 34 goals, 82 assists. He hasn't even played in every game. Brandon Hagel, 35 goals, got 50 assists. Braden Point's got 41 goals. Gensel, who the Rangers were targeting at the trade deadline last year and free agency this year. Gensel killed him with Carolina in the playoffs last year. He's been unbelievable for Tampa. He's got 38 goals. Anthony Cirelli's got 26. A ton of guys. Victor Hedman plus 18. So much firepower on this team. Good for Ryan McDonough. He's a plus 40, Steve. This team is really, really, really good. I mean, this game's most likely not going to be meaningful. Who knows if Kreider even plays? We could see the Lightning versus the Wolfpack, but Dylan Garand could be between the pipes. Who knows? But Tampa's really good, Steve.
I'll be at the game with your pop. We've gone to probably 15 games this year together. Win, lose, or draw. It's always a great time with him. Appropriately so, the Rangers giving out Ranger tote bags. This way those who feel like puking in one won't mess up the garden. And then those T-shirts that you mentioned that won't be tossed into the crowd any longer for the year that the Rangers will throw into the crowd. You could wipe your tears until next October. Game won't mean anything. Kreider's got to play. I'm going to have to record the game so I can listen to Sam one more time. 40 great years announcing the game. I have to give it to the Islanders as much as I don't want to. They gave him a little scoreboard tribute last night. They put him live shot on the big screen, and he was acknowledging all the fans, half of which were fans. So that was a nice gesture by the Islanders. That's the last nice thing I'll say about that organization. Um, anyway, I'm looking forward to being there with your dad. We always have a great time. Don't know what it's going to mean for Tampa, the game you mentioned, it star-studded lineup. Saw a trivia question the other day. Kucherov, one of 4 guys to have 8 assists. I think it was 3 consecutive years. Of course, I'm going to be 60 next month, so my memory's gone. I forgot who the guys were. Gretzky, of course, I think 4, and not sure who maybe Paul Coffey. I'm the other guy was. But anyway, I'm looking forward to being there. It's going to be bittersweet. Like you mentioned, when the PA announcer says, "We'll see you next year and get home safe, drive home safe."
And then I think that there's no other better way to end the show. I saved it for last by congratulating the grade 8 Alexander Ovechkin on surpassing the great one for the most goals scored in an NHL career. It's a feat that I don't think anybody thought would ever be broken. I personally think Wayne Gretzky is the greatest athlete in his specific sport in history. I mean, as great as Jordan was and Brady, there's nobody statistically close to anything. I mean, obviously goals, but just if you look at his stat log compared to other guys, it's just not close. I mean, this one year where the guy was a plus 100, there's nobody ever better at their specific sport than I think Wayne Gretzky was. I think you can make the argument like Michael Phelps and things like that, but I mean Mayweather with boxing and stuff of that sort. But I mean the guy, I don't think anyone could match. But talking about Ovechkin a little bit, let's talk about the Washington Capitals. I mean, 50 wins after they needed a miracle to get in. They were in the Rangers' same spot last year. They needed a miracle, and they were obviously outmatched. Hopes and prayers the Rangers would get their miracle. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. They've only lost 19 games in regulation. Ovechkin, everybody wrote him off last year. Said he was old, wasn't moving the same, didn't play well in the playoffs, and he really shut his critics up. He has 42 goals. I mean, the guy was playing with a broken leg at some points this year. The guy's turning 40. I mean, 895 goals to his name. It was nice to see him break the record 20 minutes from our houses.
I was there last night. I would have loved to see him do a belly flop on the ice.
And for sure, one of the best. The only question is, will he go for 1,000? Probably need another 3 or 4 years. Who knows if he'll play that long? But scored it against a Russian too, Ilya Sorokin, and I thought it was very cool of the NHL. Very similar to when LeBron James broke the scoring record. That there was an in-game ceremony. I thought that was first class of the league, as it was of both. It's a feat that many never thought would be broken, and both were. So very cool of both sports to do that. Some things are bigger than a game and history and records, and that's certainly one that should have been recognized to that extent. So congratulations to Ovechkin. I'll let you take away your thoughts about Ovi. His most goals by far in his career against specific goaltender or Lundqvist, by the way. And we'll let you take away your thoughts about Ovi and anything else you have to add.
Yeah, you mentioned Lundqvist. He's always been a Ranger killer. He's been a killer of every team, but we've seen him so often throughout his career. He's been a dynamic player. Maybe arguably the greatest shot ever. Brett Hull with that one-timer off the off wing. Um, Unbelievable, 42 goals in 62 games a year after scoring 31 last year, full season. Probably get the comeback player of the year award. He deserves it. Carberry's hands down coach of the year. You mentioned the resurgence of this team that snuck into the playoffs, and this year, one of the top teams in the league throughout the year. But yeah, congratulations to Ovechkin. Guy drinks beer, throws body checks, probably wrestles Russian bears in the offseason. Just a guy's kind of guy, man, kind of man. Can I say man? Am I allowed to say man? And you know, he's the grade 8. You know, obviously, number will be retired, first ballot Hall of Famer, and you don't really appreciate it sometimes when you're watching a guy because he's scoring to a team, sending one of your guys into the plexiglass. But the guy's just played the game hard throughout his career. Not a crybaby, doesn't whine, look for penalties. Um, when he's been challenged, he's dropped the gloves infrequently, but when necessary, just great guy to have come into the league and be performing still at the top of his game after 31 goals last year. We're talking about an off year for the guy.
And I also think that two things that I really thought were cool is when he tied the record, Gretzky came into the locker room and Ryan Leonard, who scored his first ever goal, Gretzky congratulated him. I thought that was first class of. And then in that same game, of course, Ovechkin had a wide open look to get the record and ultimately passed it up. He said he will not break the record on an empty net goal. I thought that was just such a cool thing to do, want to earn it the right way with somebody in net. So I really like that by Ovechkin. But with that being said, the Rovner report, AJ Rovner, Steve Shanny, most likely bearing some sort of miracle, we will go from the Rangers to playoffs 2024. Yep, there it is.
Not happening.
Not happening. Well, Kreider ain't happening next year either. That was his quote. But AJ Rovner, Steve Shanny, along with Steve's towel and disgrace of his hockey club, we will see you one final time for
Always a fan.
we will see you
We
next
always suffer.